Well, I grew up always dreaming of living for something bigger than my town and my state, something big. And when I went to college, there I studied really hard. I thought something big is graduate with honors, and I actually managed to graduate with honors studying computer science. While I was there, I was dating this one guy for a few years, and at a certain point I thought, that's something big. I'll ask him to marry me, and I'll live for him and our kids and my career, and that will be something big. But before I could say anything, something in my heart said, wait, there's something bigger. So after I graduated, I got a job here in Houston working doing software development, and I got to know some families who were living the spirituality of the Focolare. In these families, I saw people who were living the gospel, and it reminded me of that phrase, they will know you are Christians by our love. And I said, yes, these are real Christians. And so I said, I want what they have. And so I started attending their gatherings, and I attended their summer gathering called a Mariopolis. And there we heard all kinds of amazing, beautiful things. And before we left, they said, take one thing home with you. And so I took Be the First to Love. And I had lots of chances to live Be the First to Love. For example, when I went home to visit my parents in New Orleans, I grew up in New Orleans, like to do those last dishes at night before going to bed. Or at work, there was this one occasion where my boss asked me to do something on a project, and being the young person I was, I thought, well, I don't need to do that, and so I turned in my project without doing it. Well, anyway, the next day he came down the hall, and I saw him, and in my soul there was this thought, okay, this is your chance to be the first to love. You can either argue with him, or you can do what you know deep down is right. So when he got there, I said, he said, so, your project's missing this thing. And I said, you're right, I'll do it. And he was like, oh my gosh, he was like so surprised. And I felt so happy having loved him in that way. So, the more I got to know the spirituality, the more I lived it. The consecrated women of the Focolare at that time lived in San Antonio. And so I started going to San Antonio once a month, and then twice a month. And sometimes when I went, I really didn't even know what I was going for, but I was just going to be there, to be with them. And over time, I really started feeling in my soul this desire to be like them, to live like them. And so after a 2-week retreat in our national center in New York, I had a chance to speak to the national director, and I mentioned this. I said, I think I have the vocation to live in the Focolare, to be a consecrated member of the Focolare. And she looked at me and she says, I do too. And it was like, whoa. So I asked her, I said, how do you know? And she said, well, it takes one to know one. And so my venture continued. So after that, I went home, I came back to Houston, I packed up everything, gave my 2-week notice, and drove up to New York to their national center there, and spent 3 years in formation with young women from all over the US and Canada. Then I went to Italy and our international center, and there I lived and worked with young women from all over the world. And I worked in ceramics. There were 14 of us, and we were from 13 different countries. So it was really a great opportunity to, build my muscles in loving people who think different than me, who see things different from me. And it was a beautiful opportunity. Then I came back to the United States, and I lived in the Focolare house in Ohio, then in Chicago, then in Denver, and now I'm back in Houston. I'm very happy to be here. And it's, I have to say, I gave my life for God in the Focolare, and I can't think of a better way to have spent my life.